Good. Okay, so we are back again for another episode of Let's Talk Scholarships. And today's discussion is going to center on the Commonwealth Masters and PhD scholarship. But first of all, I want to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone in the audience, depending on where you're joining us from, or depending on if you're when you're watching this recording later on. You're welcome to this platform. Usually, we have these talks uh, tagged Let's Talk Scholarships because we want to get as much information out as possible on scholarships to the audience. Like I said, today's discussion is on the Commonwealth Scholarship, the Commonwealth Masters and PhD Scholarship, which will be opening in a few days for candidates to apply. As usual practice, if you're joining us, please go into the comment section and drop your name and where you're joining us from, your location, your city, your country, so that we can have a feel of the audience and know who we are talking to and know that people are actually listening. So yeah, so while you do that, I would introduce myself. I'm Buchi. If you're a regular on the show, you already know me. But if you don't, Buchi, like I said, was a Commonwealth Shared Scholar in 2022 at the University of Leeds. Studied transport planning and engineering, and finished my studies in September 2023. And usually I host these sessions to, lead the discussion so that other people can have the same opportunity that I had and access the same information. I attended webinars like this when I was also planning my own application, and they helped a whole lot. So I think it's also good that we also put the information out for others to also get the opportunities that we had, make successful applications, and get a good degree, solve the world's problems, because we're all change makers and problem solvers. Yeah, so I have a few guest speakers with me today. One of our speakers is still on his way, but Taibat is here with me in the studio, and she's very eager to join the discussion today. So I'll let her do a brief introduction of herself before we move on. Thank you. Taibat, over to you.
Thank you very much, Buchi, and I'm really glad to be here today. My name is Taibat Zain, and I am a Commonwealth PhD scholar at the University of East Anglia. I started my PhD in 2023, so I'm finishing up the first year of my PhD. Before then, I was a Commonwealth Shared Scholar at the School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London. So I did my MSc in development economics. So you can call me a double scholar if you can. So I'm really excited to be here to share, my own journey and the tips that worked for me. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Taibat, for that. Taibat is a double scholar, and that's a very unique privilege. But it's not an impossible feat. I think it's also one of the things. So people know that it's also possible to do a master's and also do a PhD also funded by the Commonwealth Scholarship. It's just a matter of making successful applications. Yeah. So our second speaker is here with us. Make I allow you to do a brief introduction. Just let the audience know who you are, what you're doing, where you studied, what opportunities you have, and any other feelings you have about being here today with us.
Okay, thank you very much, Ejiro, for bringing me on board this webinar. I'm Chukwuemeka, uh, from Nigeria, of course, as the name sounds, Chukwuemeka Okoto. 2020 Commonwealth Shared Scholar at the University of Kent. Studied international conflict analysis. At the moment, I am rounding off my PhD with a Royal Charter Scholarship at the University of Buckingham. Yeah, that's me. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Emeka. So, just so the audience knows, you're in good company, and I'm sure that each of us have our unique perspectives to bring to the discussion, and hopefully we're going to have a very wonderful discussion moving forward. I see the chat box is very active. A lot of people are joining in from across the globe, different countries, different cities, which is very nice. It's good to know we have a global audience with us today. So, like I said, today's discussion is about the Commonwealth Scholarship, Masters and PhD, which will be opening in a few days. When the speakers were introducing themselves, you would have heard some people mention that they were Commonwealth Shared Scholars. So the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship is a different scholarship from the Commonwealth Masters and Commonwealth PhD. for those who may not know. And during the course of our discussion, we'll explain what the difference really is. So the application that's coming up this September, I think on the 10th of September, is for Masters and PhD. The Commonwealth Shared Scholarship application is yet to be opened, and it usually opens after these ones have come up. So that should be in a few weeks' time. But I guess part of the things we discussed today will be useful for both. But yeah, so what we're going to talk about today is more relevant to the Commonwealth Masters and Commonwealth PhD. The Commonwealth Scholarship Commission has a range of different scholarships. There's distance learning, there's split site, and a few other, and the fellowships that they also run. So just if you need more details, the intricate details about these things, visit the Commonwealth Scholarship website, and you see all the different scholarships there, and see what fits you most. So today we will just be introducing the masters and the PhD so that we can have a good feel about what it is. And as you're listening, I hope you also get a good feel of what the scholarship is and what the qualifications are, and if you're the right candidate to apply, and also how to go about it. In our usual fashion, as the discussion goes on between myself and the speakers, if you have any questions that pop up or that come to mind, just put them in the comment section. There's notice on the screen for those of us that are joining in from LinkedIn, because we've had some issues where people left comments in LinkedIn and we couldn't see it on the platform here because we are streaming on different platforms at the same time. So you need to go into the video on the LinkedIn and type your comment in the comment section there, not on the regular LinkedIn comment section of the post that's announcing the session. So you need to actually go into the video and use that chat platform so that your comments can pop up where the speakers can see them, and also so that our responses can also be visible to you as well, because some questions might be answered in the chat and also some questions we'll take on screen, but we'll try to get through as many questions as possible. Yeah, so not to waste so much time, I will go straight into the details. The Commonwealth Masters and PhD. So, I was a master scholar, not a PhD scholar, so I'm glad that we have Taibat with us in the house. So she's going to talk more about the PhD from a first-hand experience. I'll be giving you some details on this from a second-hand experience. Yeah, so the Commonwealth scholarships are funded by the FCDO, Federal Commonwealth Development Office of the UK government, and it's headed by the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission. Like I mentioned earlier, they have a range of scholarships that they offer, and these scholarships are usually for people who are members of the Commonwealth country. So if you're a citizen of or resident in a Commonwealth country, you are most likely eligible. But not all Commonwealth countries are eligible for all the scholarships, because some of the scholarships are specifically for less advantaged countries. So you need to go to the website and check the list of eligible countries for each scholarship to be sure that you're actually eligible before you apply. We can't run through the whole list of eligibility criteria here, but everything that you need to know is on the scholarship website. Second thing that you need to know is that the scholarship is a fully funded scholarship. What does the fully funded scholarship mean? The fully funded scholarship means that all the funding that is required for your studies is covered by the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission, meaning that your visa application to come and study in the UK, your flights to come and take up your studies, your living expenses while in the UK, your fees are all covered, and even your return flight back to your home country is also covered as well. So the Commonwealth takes care of all these details for you, so that the financial burden of taking up a degree in a foreign country is taken off your shoulders, and you can concentrate more on your studies and actually getting the best out of your studies. I think I also need to mention that the Commonwealth Scholarship is for studies in the UK. It's not for studies in any other country. Some people sometimes get it confused, but it's just for you to come and take up a degree in the university in the UK. So that needs to be cleared. And the third thing I'm going to say before I allow my other speakers to chip in a little bit is that the Commonwealth Scholarship is open to everyone that meets the eligibility criteria. It's not a merit-based scholarship. It is a developmental-based scholarship. So what does that mean? It means that you are not chosen for the scholarship based on your academic merit or academic standing. meaning that you don't need to have a first class and you don't need to be the top of your class to actually win a Commonwealth scholarship. The scholarship is mostly aimed at development impact. So what does that mean? It means that the scholarship is specifically for the development of your country. So if you can prove through your application that you are in a good position to contribute to the development of your country, and you can also prove that through these studies that you want to take up in the UK, that is going to give you an edge to be able to help with the development impact in your country, then you're a very good candidate for the scholarship and you will most likely be awarded the scholarship. So those are very important points that you need to note. Like I said, a lot of information is available on the Commonwealth website, but I think these are the basic things that we need to know at the start so that people can get a good idea of where the scholarship is coming from. And it's also very important, I feel it's always very important to let people know that this is the basis, or this is the uh, driving force of the opportunity you want to apply for, so that you get the right mindset when you're trying to apply. Because some people have a mindset that a scholarship is for less privileged people, or a scholarship is for academically brilliant people, or a scholarship is merit based and they grade, if you don't have a 5.0 over 5.0 GP, your chances of getting a scholarship are very slim. So, but those are things that are on a case by case basis. There are scholarships that are specifically aimed for the poorest of the poor, and there are scholarships that are specifically aimed for the brightest minds in school. But the Commonwealth scholarship is specifically aimed at development impact. So if you are a contributor to development impact in your home country, then you are most likely a good candidate that the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission is looking for. So I will allow Taibat to say a few words, because I'm sure there are things that I was supposed to say that I have forgotten to say. So I'll let her add to what I have said. So Taibat, over to you.
Thank you so much. And I think you said it, you laid the foundation. And just like you said, let me just emphasize that it's actually your developmental work, your community service, your volunteering. That's really what the Commonwealth wants to see. How well have you been contributing to your community, But I must also say that you need two people to be in the UK. You need funding from the Commonwealth, but you need admission from the university. So, while you're thinking about the scholarship, you should also be thinking about the university you want to go to and what is their own criteria. You know, Specifically, if you have a university in mind that requires you to have maybe a 2-2, or a 2-1, or you have a university that requires GRE. So why at this point you should be thinking, you should be listing those university and actually see if you're also meeting their own. Because even if if you're finally successful with the Commonwealth scholarship, you need to show them admission letter. So that's why they always say it's provisional until it is confirmed. So I just wanted to add that to the point that you're going to scale Commonwealth even if you don't have good results, but you've done incredibly well in your professional field or in your academic career and whatever. But also be very realistic with the university you're looking. For me, when I started, I knew I was not going to write IELTS. Like I have it at the back of my mind that nothing would make me write IELTS because I know how much I suffered to learn English. So I personally felt it unfair to ask me after all of these years that I spent, speaking, learning English, to write another English test. So it was easy for me to cancel out LSE because I emailed them to say waive it for me. They did not. And also these schools may require application fee. Some might waive it, some might not waive it. So it was very easy for me to streamline those university and then focus my efforts, on it. And it's also linked to my Commonwealth scholarship. So just like Iya said, even if professionally you're doing something else, but you have a lot of volunteering experience. So let me put my own case. When I first applied for Commonwealth Shared for my master's, I was working in a bank. So imagine what I'm doing in a bank. It's not developmental impact anyway. So but when I knew I was going to apply for Commonwealth scholarship, I started putting myself out there. I started doing a lot in terms of looking for organizations and volunteering. I went out of my way. All my weekends were for volunteering. Any spare time, doing any spare time was for volunteering, because I knew I needed that part in order to buttress, my application. So it doesn't matter what your current situation is now. Even if you're working in a bank, you're working as customer service, and you feel like, oh, you've not done anything to contribute to, society. Just joining an organization, helping out in cleaning up. Maybe you want to do anything climate related, helping out with cleaning up. You don't have to be the ED or co-founder to actually claim that you've made impact. That's why it's good to use the word contribute to. It's enough to say you contribute to something, even if you're not the one that led that thing. So please don't give up because you don't have an NGO, or because you're not the founder or executive director of anything. Just be true to the other things you're doing. If you're a volunteer, how active have you been? What have you done? Try to really, think about all of those things. So yeah, I'll allow Emeka to also maybe add one or two things to that.
Okay, thank you very much. My two other colleagues have really spoken well. Maybe I will be the prophet of the other side a bit. So I will just talk briefly about getting rejected, because that's an area people need to brace themselves up as well and prepare their minds that it's a 50-50 thing. I can get accepted, I could be rejected at the same time. I could be placed on reserve and never upgraded to a substantial nominee, and that could also mean the end of my application. So what happens where you have an offer from a university, but you're not able to get the Commonwealth funding? Okay, what happens when you get the Commonwealth funding as a reserve candidate and you're not upgraded eventually to a substantial nominee? So all of these things, applicants must be aware that it's a 50-50 thing. You are competing with 1,001 students across Commonwealth countries. So you need to put your best foot forward. Okay. And it's not enough to say, oh, I applied once and I didn't get it. Yeah, you try again. Some of us tried it once, we didn't get it. Some, and you can't just try it and expect to be this perfect candidate. It's a process, okay? So even if somebody tried it once and got them, that person must have equally, you don't know how far they have failed, or how far they have prepared themselves for this moment. So you must prepare yourself that, yes, it is not just Commonwealth. This is just one of the many scholarships that you can apply for. But again, you have to be ready to get rejected, because a number of times people do, and some don't take it so well, and it's something we need to prepare your minds for. So if you actually understand that, yes, that I'm rejected does not mean I'm not a good candidate, okay? It just means perhaps there was something I didn't do well. There's something I need to learn more. There's something I need to improve on. There's a niche I need to, just a way to broaden the scope of your search and the scope of what you're doing. So that's the first thing I would say. Then again, I will add that these days assessments have also moved quickly from just what you've written. People want to see how you are able to put yourself out there. If you say you're making impact in this area, how are we able to measure that? Is there a way we can go on your LinkedIn page, on your Facebook page, on your Twitter page, and find something interesting about what you say you're doing? And that's why it's important that you put yourself out there. If you say you're volunteering, engage with the community you're volunteering actively online. What are the kind of comments you share? If you haven't been sharing the very beautiful ones, you can start now and start building a profile for yourself. So it's very important that you have a very active, beautiful profile of yourself out there. Put yourself out there. Like Tabat said, you need to put your work there. Okay, people need to know that you're doing this. It needs to be established, more or less. So, yeah, these are the two things I would add. And the other thing I would just like to add, is Commonwealth is also about how well you are able to tell your story, the story of the motivation for your research. the story of your academic background, your own life story. What's your motivation? You know, you need to know how to tell that story to be convincing, because if someone is going to give you that amount of funding, they need to know why you are the best candidate for this. So you need to, it's not just enough to tell me that you grew up, you lost your father and your mother at age 2, and but you need to tell that story convincingly. You need to connect the dots. How did that impact what you're doing now? And how does that shape what you want to do tomorrow? And how is that irrelevant? Why should we care about that impact? So all of these things, you need to know how to marry them in your ACEs. And that's the only way you can make a credible and understanding candidate. I think I will yield the mic at this point. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Emeka, for those very, very honest submissions, because I think those are some of the important things that people need to know. Especially when the starting point when he said you can be rejected. I mean, I know I was rejected on my first application. Well, I won't say rejected. They just didn't get back to me. And that's something that's one way that it always goes. You send an application, and then you're hearing people are getting feedback, and then your inbox is empty, and you're refreshing your email over and over again, and you're not seeing anything. And sometimes they don't get back to the unsuccessful candidates; they only get back to the successful ones. So it's just one of those things. And and I got placed on the reserve list, and I was luckily upgraded. But also being on the reserve list is also another level of anxiety that comes with it. So it's just something that you need to note. But the important part is, if you make a good application, it's not that you were not selected because you're not a good candidate. It's usually because there are a lot more candidates with better applications than you. It's just the truth. If they have a target number of people they are awarding the scholarship to every year, and once they get the top, let's say the top 600, top 7, top 1000, we don't know the quota. I think it's somewhere on the internet, but I don't know what it is. When they get that number, everyone else is out of that application cycle. But that you applied once and you didn't get it doesn't mean you can't get it another time. And it also doesn't mean that this is the only scholarship application you can apply to. But the skills that you get from applying for one scholarship are transferable to other scholarship applications. So it's just something that we need to keep at the back of our minds. Before we proceed, I also need to mention that this today's session is about the introduction to the scholarships itself. We may not go into very much detail about the individual essays that make up the scholarship on today's session. And the reason for this is because the scholarship application is not yet open, and half of the people listening have not yet drafted their own essays. So if we start talking about the essays, some people might not fully understand what's being talked about. So we'll organize another session in a few weeks' time to talk about the essays in detail, so that by then we will expect that most people have drafted up their essays and they've come up with something tangible that can be reviewed, so that once the information is being put out there, we would be able to look into it, and from the information that we're giving out, you'll be able to also see your mistakes by yourself instead of waiting for someone to read your individual essays, which may never happen. You don't need someone to read your essays before you get the scholarship. uh, I'm someone in that category. No one ever read my essays, but I was able to, through all the information I was able to get online through webinars like this, I was able to put together an application that made it to the list. Yeah, and after, when I looked at my previous application that I didn't get feedback from, I had to laugh at myself a little bit, because that application, the content was not where it was supposed to be. But at the time, I didn't know that. So with more information comes more clarity. So yeah, so today we're going to talk about a lot of things, the requirements, and I can see some questions already popping up in the chat. So I'm going to try to be very brief so that we can attend to some of those questions. So first of all, like Talbot has said, university admission, very important. So one of the key things you need to think about as a prospective candidate is where you want to study, because the Commonwealth Scholarship cuts across all the universities in the UK. There's no special universities that are selected for the scholarship. So you can study whatever you want, in quotes, you can study whatever you want, wherever you want in the UK, as long as you're able to prove that studying this is linked to the 6 themes of the Commonwealth Development Impact. So when you fill your application, they are going to be asked, what is the course what the university, and you're going to ask which theme does it fall under. The Commonwealth Scholarship has 6 themes. I won't mention them here. That's an assignment for the viewers. Go to the website and look them up, read about them, get the information you need about them. Another thing you need to know is that the SDGs are an important factor when you're applying for the Commonwealth Scholarship, because you'll be asked what are the top 3 SDGs that are linked to what you're pursuing. So I will summarize by saying that the first thing you need to do as a prospective applicant or as an applicant is to comprehensively articulate the problem that you are trying to solve. I think that's one of the points that Emeka made initially, and I think Taibat alluded to that point as well. Is a development impact scholarship. Why are you the best candidate? You're the best candidate because you're trying to solve a particular problem. What is this problem? What does the problem look? So you have to exhibit understanding of the problem, understanding of the solution, understanding of how you contribute to the solution. So when Tybert was talking about things like volunteering, it came to mind. It's not just you wake up and volunteer everywhere, but you have to volunteer in line with the problem that you're trying to solve. You have to have some experience in line with the problem you're trying to solve. It must not be on a big scale. It can be on a very small scale, but you have to have been doing something in that space. Let me put it that way. You have to have something credible to show in that space. You have to show that this is a problem and that this problem matters to you and that you're passionate about solving that problem. So, number one, I always tell people articulate your problem. Articulate your problem. Because when you go into the essays, the first 4 essays are mostly about you talking about this problem. What is the problem? How are you contributing to the solution? How, what kind of solutions are you going to deploy when you get back from school? How can you measure and indicate all the indicators for this problem? How can we know that you're achieving progress? So you're going to write about those things, and you can't articulate those points very well unless you understand the problem that you're trying to solve. So pick a problem that you're passionate about solving. That's also going to guide you on the course you want to study and the university you're going to go to. So it's not just about eliminating universities because they ask for an application fee or because they ask for IELTS. There's nothing wrong in writing IELTS. I didn't write IELTS, but there's nothing wrong in writing IELTS. But if you can get a university that waves is good. But if you know that the course that you're passionate about studying goes to a university where they require you to write IELTS, and you can pick up that, you can do it. If it's where you want to go and if it's the best place to get the information and the studies and the knowledge that you need, I think it's also a good challenge to take up. It's one of those things you invest to get things, to get what you want. So it's also part of it. So think about that. It will also help you to choose the universities you want to go to. It will also help you to, understand the pathway that you want to take. It will also help you to understand the career path, which is also one of the essays that they'll ask you about, your future, your short-term and long-term career goals. They'll ask you about those things, ask you about your objectives during the study. So for those who have not been through this application cycle before, you're going to write approximately 11 essays. If things have not changed, you write approximately 11 essays. The first 4 of them will be about development impact. Then you have some that talks about your studies, which is basically about your research. Then your objectives during the course of your studies, which are other objectives that you have in addition to studying. Remember, you're talking about solving a problem and impact. So you also have to be doing other things alongside your studies to maximize your time in the UK. So you write about those as well. You're going to write about your volunteering opportunities. So any volunteering you've done, there's a special essay for that. You're going to include a personal statement that talks about, your history. I think that was what Emeka mostly talked about. Where are you coming from? What's your story? How did you get to this point? How did this problem become a passion of yours? Why is this problem dear to your heart? Why do you think you can be a part of the solution? What have you done? What have you been doing? What do you aim to do? So all those things are part of the things you include in your essay. So I'm saying this now so that people can begin to think. You can begin to make bullet points about these points, note them down. When you start drafting your essay, start to incorporate them into your essays. When we do the session on essays, it will become clearer how to tell a better story. We will try to make it as detailed as possible. But those are just some of the important points, so that you have a good mindset going into the application cycle. I think I always emphasize having a good mindset, knowing your why. Why are you actually applying for this scholarship? Why is this scholarship important to you? Why are you the best candidate for this scholarship? Why are you seeking the funding for the scholarship? Why do you want to study in the UK? Why is it this course? Why is that important to your future? you have to answer these questions for yourself, because when you convince yourself to the answers of these questions, then you'll be able to put in writing, even within the limited number of words that you're given, a good enough story to be able to convince the next person that this is actually a worthy cause to be funded. So I don't know if any of the other speakers want to say anything else before we actually dive into taking questions from the audience, because I know that a lot of questions have popped up, and I know that the people listening are eager to get the answers to their questions. So I'll just let us.
Let me quickly, because I wanted to just put this for those people interested in PhD. As part of the application questions, there's also the part about your research, what you want to research about. And for that bit of the question, you need to have a sort of a draft research proposal, not in full, not in perfect, but you need to have a draft of what the research is going to be about, what your problem is, what your methodology would be, and all of that. And as part of that also, you need to list or mention your supervisors. There's a section that talks about if you've made contact with the school, and there's a section that asks you to list how the form of contact you've had with the school. And for me, I had to talk about, I already talked with supervisor, I have supervisors, they've agreed to supervise me. And then the other school, I also had to talk, the person was my master's dissertation supervisor, and she's willing to go ahead to be my PhD. So if you're doing PhD, you should at this point have contacted the university. If you plan to submit a scholarship application this session or this season, you must have contacted the school. If you've not done that, please use this week to do that. Make the first contact. Just have names that you can even put in the application that you follow up on, because the application duration is, maybe the deadline is October or November. It was quite early last year, so you have limited time. But you need to be able to, there's a question that said, what form of contact you've had in that school. And there's also some questions on your research proposal. So if you're a PhD student, you have additional questions. Yeah, but every other thing is quite similar with master's essay questions.
Yeah, and to add to that, because I was also going to mention having a PhD proposal, I think you, in addition to making contact, because most times we burden potential prospective supervisors with a lot of unnecessary introductions about ourselves. My experience in recent time is that a lot of academics, especially those of them who are potential supervisors, they actually have time to read, because it's one of the things they look out for. They want PhD students because it's a way for them to grow in the career. So if you're sending an email, make sure you have researched your PhD proposal. You have a topic, very important. You have written a little about your research questions, very, very important. You need to know how to develop research questions, and your methodology. You do not need anything perfect at this point, but just have a clear idea of what you want to do, how you want to do it, where are you going to, what kind of documents are you looking at, what are the importance of these documents, and how accessible are these documents. Because the other thing that is very important in research here in the UK is ethical considerations. How researchable is the area you're going into? Okay, how feasible is the research? What timeline are you looking at? So all of these things, I believe, will come in a full-blown webinar on application processes, but you need to have all of these things in mind. And then what's the state of literature on the subjects you want to research? Okay, who are the authors? Who are you reading? Who are you citing? Who are the authorities in this area? How are you identifying or interrogating their own research? How does your own research contribute to the larger conversation within that area? And again, in trying to get supervisors, one catch that might help you is to look out for very active professors, active researchers. Most of the times, these guys have money. They have money to recruit you as a PhD student. I've come to see that, yes, a number of them are doing researches, looking for PhD postdoctoral candidates who they can recruit. So if you can find out And I think this is where I would recommend Twitter for a lot of you, because most of them are always advertising that, oh, I'm looking for a PhD student in this area. I'm not talking of Commonwealth a bit. So I'm looking for a PhD candidate in this area. So you can tap in on those kind of things and say, okay, this person's got a research going here. Let me see if I can come up with an idea, if it's something that aligns with your own interest. And then for Commonwealth, for instance, after you have contacted a PhD, send them over your proposals. They are happy to help you refine them, have something that is well packaged to present to Commonwealth. That way you also get to have an edge. And I think that's the most important benefit of contacting a supervisor ahead of time, because of course they will help you with your proposal, so it becomes stronger when you submit them. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for those very important points. I hope people in the audience are listening and taking notes. And it's fine that you mentioned Twitter, because I think the whole point of this platform is also to give people opportunities. Everybody may not get the Commonwealth, but from this single webinar, you might get the information for the next opportunity that you'll be able to leverage on. So yeah, I highly recommend what Emeka has said. Go on Twitter, see supervisors, draft up, contact them. You might contact a supervisor for this PhD application. You might not get the Commonwealth, but your supervisor might have alternative funding. So it's also one of those things, So never discount any opportunities. And if you can, reach out to as many supervisors as possible. I always tell people, cast their nets wide. It's a very important point.
And I just want to say, there is studentship in schools. I got one of those. It's hard, but it's not impossible, especially if you have a good relationship with that supervisor. I had a good relationship with one, and I realized that if the supervisor really, really like you, they're going to fight for you. So it was a tough choice between choosing my studentship at Loughborough and the CSC. I almost didn't want to take the CSC. It was just because there's family, perks to it. Do you get so studentship is also good when you are checking university and you are looking at them. Check if the university has their own scholarship. Individual department always have. They call it studentship. So it's for so your supervisor is coming from that department, and that department has funding. They call it studentship. It's very competitive. I realized that the supervisors fight for it. So they will grade you. If you have a good relationship, your supervisor will give you good mark, and then they will fight for it. So please don't discount that also. Just wanted to mention that. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I think we'll start taking questions. I've seen some very interesting questions in the comment section, so I think we'll let those questions drive the conversation for now, since we're not going very deep into the details of the scholarship application itself. So I think we'll start taking questions from the comment section so that we can lead through the discussion. So first comment on the screen says, "Can one come with their kids doing PhD?"
Yes.
Okay,
I
good.
came with my daughter, and you get child allowance, which is not a lot of money, but really helps to put your child into nursery, especially if they are small. My daughter was 2 years old when I started, and I needed her to be in nursery. And you know how expensive UK nursery is. It's super expensive. So Commonwealth was paying about roughly £290 each, which is just for 1 day of nursery, full day of nursery, 1 day, making 4 days in a month. It's not a lot, but it's something to actually help you. So yes, for PhD you can come, and there's family allowance for you to do that. But they're not going to take care of any other thing. They're not going to take care of your child IHLs. You have to pay for the IHS fee, which is a lot of money if you're coming for PhD. It's over £3,000. Over £3,000. So have that in mind, and Commonwealth is not going to pay for it. They're not going to pay for the flights. They're not going to pay for any other thing related to your family, except for the child allowance and your spousal allowance if you're claiming for that. But it's a lot of financial constraints, so you have to think that through.
Yeah, so Buchi, sorry, I just wanted to say this. Tabiat, if you can just quickly, since we're on the question, just talk about, because for PhD, bringing your kids, it cannot be all fun, if I'm not mistaken, good, because I know. So can you just quickly, just under 1 minute, just also bring that part so people can actually weigh their options? Just
Okay, so
quickly.
when it's a lot because you're doing your PhD, you are new, you are anxious, you have anxiety, you have expectation, you want to deliver. And if you're going there without your partner and your child, it's going to be a lot. So what I did first is to leave my child and go alone because I needed to settle. There's a housing issue in the UK, and you can't put your child, there's a kind of accommodation you need for family, which is expensive, which is very hard to get, which is difficult to get. So I had to do 6 months without my daughter just so I can settle and then find my bearing. So when I brought her, it was still difficult. It was hard. I had to juggle between, nursery, juggle between class. I missed a lot of opening ceremonies because I don't have the time. Nobody's going to watch over her. So if you're doing anything impromptu, I couldn't attend. I couldn't meet up with my fellow cohorts. I couldn't go out for anything outside of, meeting my supervisors. So it was quite boring and it was very restrictive, if you want to put it that way. But I couldn't bear it not having my daughter with me any longer. But it's so funny that after 6 months, I had to send her back because I knew it was not going to work. It was not working because I was lagging behind. I was lagging behind, so I had to send her back. So that's my own. But I think if you have your partner with you, you guys can balance it in a way that while you are in school, your partner is at home, and while you are home, your partner is at work. My
Okay.
partner had a good job here, so he could not leave it for anything. But it was coming to help, every few weeks, but it's not the same like having someone constant.
All right, thank you. Before we move to the next question, I just want to say to people, please don't. This is just her story, okay? Yours can be different, so don't feel scared or discouraged or abandon your family, please. But this, there are also support system in schools, so you need to ask questions. A lot of support system in schools, so ask questions so you can get the benefits. Okay, but over to you. Sorry for the interruption.
No,
I'm
no,
leaving.
no, no, no. It's fine. It's fine. It's always good to have those perspectives so that people can have all the information to consider their options and also begin to plan accordingly as well. Because I have a few friends that also have those type of challenges. I know people that came here, maybe they were pregnant or they were heavily or they gave birth, and things were not so easy. But then you also find out that some of the universities have some different support systems to take care of people with kids, people with families. So, but if you don't ask questions, you might not really know that all these things are available to you. So it's also things to also consider. Try to always look for as much information as possible. It's always very, very important. Yeah. So if we move to the next question, thank you for this webinar. Please, can a final year undergraduate student apply for the Commonwealth Master's Scholarship? Uh, my short,
I'll okay.
yeah, let me just quickly say, my short answer would be yes, because nothing really stops you from applying if you can get all the necessary documentation in order to submit an application and also to get admission from the university. I think those are the real constraints. Being in final year or not being in final year is not really the constraints. The constraint is mostly about, do you have all the documentation that's required to complete your application during the application cycle, both for the Commonwealth scholarship and the admission? If you have all that it takes, I mean, by all means, you can go. But that also brings me to another important topic that maybe we've not touched on enough, which is the nominating agencies. So if you are a Nigerian like myself and you want to apply using the Federal Scholarship Board as a nominating agency, the nominating agencies will also have their own criteria for screening candidates that they wish to nominate. Let me try to specify this in maybe 2 minutes. So for you to get the scholarship, you have to have university admission. One, you have to have a good application from the CSE. Two, but you also need to be nominated by somebody. Someone needs to vouch for you to say this person is a good candidate to give the scholarship to. Now, there's a list of nominating agencies on the CSE website, but for most Commonwealth countries, you have a nominating agency in your federal education ministry, whether call it a ministry, a department, a consortium, whatever you call it in your country. Whoever is in charge of the federal education policy usually has a subdivision that is in charge of nominating candidates for the Commonwealth scholarship. Those people have their own requirements that you have to meet up with. So for a Nigerian, they will usually ask you for the National Youth Service Commission certificate, which you usually get when you complete 1 year service after you've graduated from school. So that can be a barrier for some people who want to apply, because the nominating agency will not recommend you unless you have all their requirements. That being said, there are other nominating agencies outside your country's government body. So there are some non-governmental organizations that also nominate candidates. Like a popular one is FAWE. And FAWE is for females. So if you're a male, FAWE may not work for you. But there's a list of nominating agencies on the Commonwealth website. You need to go there and check. And under each of them, you will be able to find their individual websites or their contacts, and you can ask them for their requirements if it is not expressly written on the Commonwealth website or on the nominating agency's website. And then you can apply through multiple nominating agencies. You must not only apply through your government body. You can apply through one of the non-governmental organizations. If you're an academic in a partner university, that is also recommended. Your university where you work can also recommend you for the scholarship as your nominating agency. So that is a very important point that you need to note. I just needed to throw that out there so that people can begin to understand the way the scholarship works. Mecca, I think you wanted to say something. I hope I've not said what you wanted to say.
Okay, yeah, you made the point so clear. Just to add that for Commonwealth, if it's for masters, of course, the nominating agencies will always ask for those documents you mentioned. But if you're just a final year student, if you have the other documents ready, then Commonwealth shared might be a more credible option for you to go with, because you wouldn't need your NYSC certificate for anything. So you will just, but then you need to have your transcripts. So I was also going to say that it depends on how far you are from graduating. You cannot just be entering final year now and they think of applying. So you need to be in the final semester. In fact, you need to be in the semester where you need to have submitted your thesis by now if you want to apply. Because for you to have the transcript, it's going to be accumulation of all you've done from your year one. So you cannot have that midway into your final year. So that potentially limits your applicability, to the scholarship. So you need to find out what the rules are. If you're in the very final stages of your final year, you sure you've submitted your thesis, and you can lay hands on your transcripts in a couple of months or weeks, then you should sure give it a go. But that should only be for Commonwealth shared, because FSB will give you no nomination if you don't have your NYSC discharge. So that's just it.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that that's correct, because that was my experience for Commonwealth PhD. I was running another master's program in the UK, but that was self-funded because I was waiting. I really wanted a PhD, but I didn't get it. So I decided to go and do a research course myself. So when Commonwealth came in, I was on a second master's in the UK that I haven't completed, and I had to show admission from the school. I had to show a lot of things. Even for my visa, you had to show that you've completed. So to the school admission that this is my case, this is my situation. By October, I would have everything, but it would be too late to apply. So I didn't know they can do it, but there was a way they just said I should bring something from my other school, which is a statement from them that I am going to complete my course. So that was what I used. I didn't use a transcript because I don't have one. So, and the school gave me what I needed to do my application. So after October, I just had to go back to admission and update it. So nothing is impossible if you can write emails. Always ask and don't assume. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I
Yeah,
like that
I think
closing.
I had a similar experience because um, I got my PhD admission, I think midway into my master's. But before the university could confirm funding for me, they needed me to show that I have graduated with a certain class of degree in my master's. So I was made an offer for my PhD midway into my master's, but they couldn't give me funding, right? Because I wanted to be sure that we want you to have this particular grade so that we can confirm whether we're going to fund you or we're not going to fund you. So I think that's also important to keep in mind.
Okay. Just so we can try to get through as much questions as possible, we'll move to the next one, and we'll try to keep our answers brief. I'll just say this now. So usually we allow people that have, our viewers to reach out to our speakers individually via LinkedIn, if it's possible, to ask follow-up questions where they may have issues, or and myself included. So if you have a question, even if I don't know the answer, I can try to source the answer through one of the speakers or through anybody else. So if your question doesn't get satisfactorily answered because of the short time that we have today, you can also explore that option as well. So just take note of the speakers' names as it shows on the screen, and then you can go and find them on LinkedIn and try to connect with them, and then try to get your questions answered. Uh, or you can also bring them to our next session as well. But make hay while the sun shines, they say. So we'll move to the next question, which is this one that says, what can separate you from your friend in terms of articulation of ideas? What makes someone to win it at first attempt? Uh, I want to try to give a short answer to this one. I cannot say what makes someone to win it at first attempt. I can describe what a good application looks like, but winning it at first attempt is something that the CSC reviewers are the only ones that can integrally tell you what actually they look out for in the first attempt. And like I said myself, I didn't get my scholarship on the first attempt. But when I did my second attempt, I knew exactly what went wrong. And that is what I mentioned before when I was talking about articulating your problem. I think that was one of the major things that I did not do well in the first application. And I think the way the essays are structured is that you talk about the problem first, and then your story follows through that. So if you don't articulate your problem well at the beginning, I think your flow of discussion, because when your problem is not very clear, the solutions you're providing are not very clear, your passion is not very clear, your objectives are not clear, your study goals are not clear, your personal story is not clear, then the opportunities, the volunteering experience you're bringing to the fore is not also not clear, because they all don't connect to that problem that you've articulated properly and made them to understand where your passion comes from. So I think that's one of the core points I took away from my second attempt. I don't know if any of the other speakers has a different opinion or an extra opinion to add to that.
I think he answered the question by asking a question. So, what differentiates your application, not necessarily from your friend, is except you're going to be making the same application with your friend. If you're going to be writing exactly the same thing as your friend, you then both of you might as well just quit applying. So, but I think what differentiates it is what you said, articulation of ideas. That's what differentiates it. How are you able to articulate it? And being able to articulate is not something you do in a split second. It's a process. So if someone applied, I think it was 𝐂𝐸 that called my mind to it in the webinar that I organized for my mentees. If someone applied for it once and got it, you can't say, oh, this person is lucky, because that person must have building capacity over time that you yourself weren't building, or that you yourself haven't reached. So the difference is how you are able to articulate it, like you mentioned in your question. And you are being able to articulate very well is a product of how well you have researched, how well you have been writing and counseling, how well you have been giving your works to people to review and offer you feedback, and how humble you are at taking feedbacks and integrating them in your subsequent draft. So these are all the things that make you come up with a good application. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll quickly move to the next question. Uh, Thank you for organizing this. I have a question concerning publications. Is there a chance that not having recent publications can affect someone's chances of getting the PhD scholarship? I'll remain silent on this one.
Okay, so you actually have a publication if you're looking for a PhD. You have a master's thesis, I'm assuming. You have a undergraduate thesis. Those two are publication, even though it's not published, but you can put it as part of your work. I did that, but I was not able to use my undergrad because it was irrelevant. I didn't even know why I did that, you know. But for both of my masters, I was preparing myself for PhD. So I was able to put my master's topic and then in bracket put unpublished. Do you get? However, I know that there are repository whereby you can put your thesis as it is without you having to work on it. But overall, I would say have something under your publication, even if it's not peer review. Personally, I didn't have, let me think about it. I only had one peer-reviewed journal article in all of my publications, and that was I was even a second author. It was just a girl that was doing it and needed a Nigerian perspective, and then she put me on it, which was um which was a plus. But I'd written a lot of blogs and I've published extensively on UNESCO website, UN website, ONGAI website, international website. So I use that as my publications and I listed everything. So if you're thinking about it and you don't have peer review journal, which is a lot of work, especially if you're not in the sciences, because I'm doing global development. So I think it might be different if you're in the sciences and you already have paper with a lot of co-authors. But I'm doing GBV, SGBV. So I put all of my blogs and cited myself. You know how they'll put 𝐂𝐮𝐬𝐻, blah 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 blah, and then I'll put the link to it. So that was what I used, and I included both my master's thesis, even though they were unpublished. Maybe Emeka had a lot of publication under his belt, but personally, I didn't have any peer review journal. So I used articles. So if you don't have any, start writing now. Even publishing on Tribune newspaper is enough. It's something that is already published. You can search for it and you find it.
Okay, just to add to what she said, yeah, very brilliant points there. Publications, yes, they are very important. In fact, I had my first publication as a 200 level student. Okay, and this is where I'm going to talk about trying to develop very good working relationships with your current lecturers. It's very important because these guys are the ones that will give you recommendations, right? So if you have also developed a relationship with them that allows you to have some kind of co-authorship with them, then that's beautiful. I was just attached as a second author, and that's made a lot of difference in my subsequent applications. I only went into the field, did oral interviews, gathered some data, blah, blah, blah. And then the guy analyzed the data, put a lot of the work together, sent it out for peer review, and it came back. So when he published it, he included my name as a second author. Of course, I was a second author because I had also gone into the field. So if you have the chance of doing that, whether as an undergraduate or as a master's student and a potential PhD student, then I would recommend you don't waste that chance. Again, she's also mentioned your master's thesis. So your master's thesis, you can quickly work it into a paper, okay? Work it into a paper, find a top ranking journal, send it out to them, and they will review it. That's one good thing you can do freely. Reviews are free. No one, you except you're publishing in a Nigerian journal, in which case they don't, I wouldn't say they don't care so much, but I would say if you find a high impact journal, send your work to them, let it be under review. So in your application, you can now say you've sent this to so journal and it's under review. Okay, so rework your master's thesis into a publishable article, send it to a top tier journal. That's what I do. I look for the big guys in my field. We are there publishing. I go there and see if I can send my work to them. Let them be reviewing it. And then you put it that this is under review. Okay. If eventually they come back to you with comments saying, okay, you have to work on this, work on this, work on this. So you see there's a step already. So it means you have to work on the paper again, take in some of the corrections. If they reject it, perhaps by the time they will send you a feedback, you would have been done with the Commonwealth process, but at least you had something under your publication section. Okay. And again, while it might make a lot of difference, especially if it's in a very top ranked journal, in most cases too, it might not. And what do you do in that case, or what makes the difference in that case is the quality of your research proposal, the quality of your research idea is also what makes, not necessarily the quantity of publications that you have. If your research idea is novel and intriguing, then you also have a higher chance of getting it, whether you have publications or not. But you must be able to tie all of these things together. I saw someone saying you can use call up later. I just wanted to react to that. I am not sure you can use call up later in place of NYSC discharge, because FSB receives tons of applications from Nigerians. So if we have 100 candidates who have come with discharge letters, if we see, in fact, if they see call up letters, then you are on serious candidates, to be honest. So you just have to get your discharge certificate or apply for Commonwealth shared, where you wouldn't need NYSC at all. Thank you.
Yeah, just to add to that for the Nigerians, you can also try a different nominating agency apart from the FSB if you qualify for that. That's also another route that you can take. But like you said, it's very competitive. Call up letter might not survive the competition against discharge certificates. So that's for those in our Nigerian audience. I know different countries also have different requirements, so it's also something you need to think about deeply. And I'll just quickly take this question on the screen, because we've been talking about publications, but I think that's mostly for the PhDs. When you're doing your master's application, they usually do not ask for publications. They having a publication in the master's application is a plus. It's not a requirement, and it's not something that might be very crucial in deciding whether you get the scholarship or not, because obviously if you're coming for a master's, you're an undergraduate, so they don't expect you to have any extensive research experience. So next question is say, oh well, that's not a question, it's a comment from Kano, that I need detailed explanation regarding the essay parts. And I think we've already mentioned that will be coming up in subsequent sessions. So just focus on getting your documents ready and articulating your ideas at this point. Then we'll have another session where we talk about putting all them together in an essay properly. And we'll talk about the SMART approach and the STAR approach. I will go into details about those things and what they mean. So yeah, so just watch this space and we'll get back to you on that. Another question is asking for what are the key factors that determine the success of an application for the Commonwealth scholarship? And I think all we've said today answers this question. So unless you have a more specific question, I would say maybe through the course of this webinar, this question has already been answered. And I think my co-speakers will agree with me that we've tried our best to tackle that. So the next question is asking, please, for those who applied via FSB Nigeria, will FSB notify those that attended the nomination interview whether they are nominated or not? This question is difficult to answer because I don't work with FSB, but I know from some people's experience, FSB notifies. From some people's experience, FSB does not get back to you at all. You just get a notification from Commonwealth to say, oh, you've been nominated, So if FSB has started reaching out to candidates on a regular basis, I cannot tell, to be honest. But FSB reaching back to you that they nominated you does not, because if FSB nominates you does not mean CSE will accept the nomination. So the more important feedback you need is for CSE to tell you that you've been nominated and they've accepted the nomination that was made, because FSB may recommend 200 candidates and CSE may decide to choose 150 out of the 200, and those are the people they will proceed with. So you're better off waiting on CSE's feedback than on FSB's feedback.
Yeah. And just to add to that, I think the waiting period is always long. That's like, and people get anxious. But I did FSB twice, but they never got back to me. It was CSE that got back to me. Yeah, so just wait for that. Like Buchi said, CSE is the most important email.
Okay, so another question. Thank you very much for the presentation. Please, I wish to ask, must you be nominated by a school before being considered for a scholarship? And can you apply for the scholarship before applying to your chosen university? Okay, I'll take the first part and I'll allow you guys to take the second part. So the first part is this. Nominating agencies come in different shapes and forms. For the Commonwealth Masters and the Commonwealth PhD, which we are talking about today, there's a range of nominating agencies. Like I said, your country's government, education board, education ministry, whatever they are in your country, whatever they are called. That's the major one that every Commonwealth country usually has. Then, in addition to that, if you are a staff of a university that is recognized by the CSC, your university can nominate you for the scholarship for masters or for PhD. That's the second one that's more universal. The third one is that there are other bodies that nominate, depending on bodies that are in line with CSC's objectives. So I mentioned FAWE. I can't remember the full meaning of FAWE, but I know that FAWE is for educating women in different fields. So they nominate female candidates to the CSC, and there are other hosts. There are some for disabled people, there are some for different categories of people, there are some that are universal. So you pick a nominating agency that you qualify for and walk through them to get a CSC nomination. You don't need the UK university to nominate you. Now, on the flip side, if you're applying for Commonwealth Shared, which is a different application that will be coming up later on, that in that application, the universities in the UK are the nominating agencies. So you apply and list the university and the course that you want to be nominated for from the list of universities in the UK. And those are the ones that will nominate you for the CSC, for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. So that's the subtle difference between the two. For masters and PhD, your nominated agencies are usually local, so in your country or within the NGO bodies. But for this Commonwealth Shared, the nominating agency is the university in the UK who is asking you to please come and take up this scholarship, or we are telling CSC that this person is a good candidate for us to take up this scholarship with us. So the second part of the question that says you need to apply to the scholarship before applying to the university, I will allow Taibat and Emeka to talk about that.
Tabat, can you go first? Okay,
Okay, sorry.
go on, go
I
on.
think if you're doing for masters, it's always advisable to have reached out to the university, to like weigh your option, because the university might have about that, because the university might have their own criteria. Meanwhile, Commonwealth, like we've said, is for all the universities in the UK. So that means the reach of Commonwealth is wide, wherever the universities might have more stringent, criteria. So I always say, have a look at those universities, because it also helps you to determine if that course, which university is offering that course. So I think the first point of contact should also be the universities that are offering the course of your choice. So you might not necessarily have submitted an application. I think you must have submitted an application so that you have something to write under your Commonwealth question that asks if you already have admission from the school. Because even for masters, they always ask if you have admission from the school. So I think it helps if you have. Maybe it increases your chances. I don't know. But for me, I think my first time I got in, so it could be because I already have the admission from previous rejections. That's not Commonwealth related. So Emeka, yeah.
Okay, yeah, this is a very important question, and people often do one and forget that this is a two-phased application process. Okay, the Commonwealth is not going to go and get the admission for you. Whether Commonwealth Shared, Commonwealth Masters, PhD, distance learning, whatever one, you have to be the one to apply for the admission first. And not necessarily first, these things can be done concurrently. I tell my mentees, if you haven't applied to the universities already, just create an application. But of course, university applications here do not take time. Okay, it's something you can do under 30 minutes if you have all the relevant documents and you have stable data connection and you're committed to doing it. You can do that under 30 minutes, or within an hour you have submitted an application. But certainly within 24 hours, which I think is already too much, you can submit an application. So if you are doing the Commonwealth application now and you haven't started and you don't have an admission from the universities you are applying to, then create an application. Once you do that, there's automatically you get an applicant's ID. Okay, and in most cases, your applicant ID, in fact, your applicant ID is tied to your application for admission. And in most cases, it is the same thing that will become your student ID when you eventually get into the university. Okay, so create an application, get an applicant ID, use that, because I think on the application page they will ask you whether you have contacted the school or whether you have admission or your applicant ID. They will ask you of the applicant ID. So just copy the applicant ID and put it there and then continue your application. That's if you haven't already submitted the school application. So when you submit your scholarship application, you can come back, finish your application, get and submit. But I think you should have started applying to the schools by now because you need an admission letter to submit to FSB when once it's time. I hope that answers the question, Clara.
Yeah, yeah. Just to add to that, because I know that some schools admission application cycle differs. So if the school you're looking at and their admission application cycle has not yet started, you can also, complete the Commonwealth scholarship and come back to it later. But it's always good to have gone through the school's websites and started the application process, look through the eligibility criteria, because it is possible to get the Commonwealth scholarship and not have admission to take it up. And the scholarship will be taken from you and given to someone else. It happens to people. So it's not just about getting the scholarship. If you get the scholarship and then you don't meet up the eligibility criteria for the university or the course, then you lose out because that scholarship cannot go without that. And also because you need to list in your application the university and the school you're applying to. And within your essays, it's also something that you mention. So going to the university website and going through all those things is something that will help you to have the necessary information to answer the questions within the application. Because all these things are different things. They might score your essays and you score the same with the next candidate based on all their criteria, and then they begin to perform an elimination process. I don't know. I don't work for CSA. I don't know how it goes, but I would assume it's something like that. So they begin to say which of these candidates is more viable. Who's the most viable candidate? Is it the candidate that has not reached out to the school, or the one who has reached out to the school, has gotten admission? If you're the one spending the money, and you have to justify why you gave this candidate over the other candidate, that can be a reason. So if you can get the admission, get it. If you can't, do the best you can. And within your application, explain that this is how far you've gone and these are the reasons why you've gone this far. And then also another thing, if you're listing courses, I think they give you in the master's course, I think they give you three options, first choice, second choice, and third choice, or something like that. I don't know whether it's still the case now. But if you're doing that, please make sure that you're listing courses. It can be any university, but make sure you're listing courses that are closely related to the problem you articulated in your essays. Please don't list one course that's closely related and then list a second course that's on a different tangent, because it shows that you lack focus and you're not actually moving in the direction of actually solving this problem. The reason why they give you options is because, like I said, you can get the scholarship and not get admission. But if you don't get your first choice and you get your second choice, you can use that to take up the scholarship. So it's just one of those things that you need to be very mindful of. And like Emeka said, getting admission application in the UK is quite simple. Most of the schools don't acquire application fees. So it's something that you can sit down one night, push through all the data and the details that they need, upload your documents, and then await their feedback. So I think we'll move to the next question. Are awards publications a key determinant for selection for MSc? I think we've answered this question before when we talked about publications, but I'll just add this other view. If you have awards that you can list, please list them. Anything that's going to give you an edge, please include it. They are not make or break requirements. Let me put it like this: they are not make or break requirements. They are not going to reject you just because you don't have any award or any publication. But those are things that can differentiate you from other candidates. So I would say, please include as much detail to sell yourself. Because remember, you're selling yourself as the best candidate to take up this scholarship and the best person to solve this problem at the same time. So if you're the best person to solve this problem, if you have an award that has shown that you have exhibited good team working ability, good leadership ability, or what have you, it also goes to show that you are the best person to solve this problem and take up this challenge. So I would say please include as much of those details as possible. Next question, for want of time. As part of my Chevening application last year, I got admission from 3 universities, including University of East Anglia. Unfortunately, I wasn't selected. Can I use those offers for my Commonwealth application? Emeka, do you want to take that?
Yeah, certainly you can use them for your Commonwealth. That's the one for up for nomination by FSB. You can use them to apply. But if it's going to be for Commonwealth shared, then you may have to tailor those applications to the funded courses and funded universities. Because Commonwealth shared is different from Commonwealth masters, even though they are both masters funding. But for the Commonwealth shared program, it is for a more specific programs funded in partnership with the universities. So the universities have uh, certain courses that they fund. So you have to make sure that those courses are among those funded courses before you can use those admission letters. But for the general Commonwealth Masters, of course, you can use those courses to apply. Just a point to keep in mind is you need to make sure that those courses are relevant courses and that you have been able to write your essays very well. Sorry for using that word relevant. All courses are relevant anyways, but you have to you need to have written your essays very well and very convincing in order to get the nomination. Yeah, just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. As someone who used the deferred offer, I would wholeheartedly agree that if you got admission before and you didn't take it up because of funding, this is another opportunity for you. It's a very it's if I it's it I think it makes the part of the journey easier because you've already settled with the universities. The only thing I would say is make sure that those admission have been deferred to the 2025-2026 session. Don't assume that because you got admission last session that the university is going to hold on to it for you for the next session. Make sure you get in contact with the university, let them know you want to defer, let them know you're applying for a scholarship in the next session so that they can also give you another admission letter with appears a new date which you can use to take it up. So just wanted to put that point out there. Next question. Can a student who had third class and 2-1 in a PGD apply for this scholarship? My short answer would be check the eligibility criteria on the CSC website. If they haven't said anything about that, then it means you have a chance. If they've specified that you must meet this grade, then your chances of being nominated are not there. I say this because for the PhD, you have to have a master's, obviously, and for the master's, you have to have an undergraduate degree. And whether there's a grade attached to it, I don't want to use my 2021 to guide you in 2024 because I haven't applied the recent time, so I don't know what the guidance is now. So my answer would be go to the website and check what they have specified there. Okay, I don't know if you have any
Yeah, you're
additional.
very correct. You're very correct on that. Or just follow the eligibility criteria because we can only advise you on how to make your applications and things to look out for. We cannot set or we do not set the eligibility criteria. Those things are already spelled out by Commonwealth themselves and further specified or narrowed down by FSB, which is a nominating agency. So check what the rule says first of all, for your nominating agency, which is important because you can't get to Commonwealth without those nominating agencies. So, number one, consider the general criteria for Commonwealth. Then, keep in mind the specific demands of the nominating agency you are applying to because they're the ones that will first of all push you to Commonwealth. And then, depending on whether you now meet Commonwealth criteria, you will be either awarded or not awarded. So, these are just the things you need to keep in mind.
Okay, thank you. Next question from Benedict. Thank you guys for this program. Please, is there any provision to bring a partner as a dependent, as a person living with disability for a master's program? again, I think the answer to this question will be similar to the previous one, in the sense that visa criteria is not specified by the CSC. The Commonwealth Scholarship Commission cannot influence decisions and policies that have been made by the UKVI, that's United Kingdom Visas and Immigration Office. So if the UKVI has not specified this exception, I don't think the CSC can grant you that exception, because the CSC can only help you to submit, can only pay for your visa application. They cannot guarantee that your visa will be granted. So those are also some of the nuances you need to also think about. You know, that you got a CSC scholarship does not mean that you get a UK visa. I think that's also an important thing I need to point out, because, you know, your chances are very high, because you wouldn't need proof of funds, because the CSC will take care of that. But that does not guarantee that you will get the student visa to take up the study. So issues of visa are not things that can be applied. However, the only advice I can give is, if you want to inquire more, you can reach out to CSC on their own hotline, send them an email and ask if they can advise. They can point you in the right direction where to get the information. They can let you know if there's any provisions for things like that. You know, especially if you explain your situation to them, they can direct you to the relevant UK agency to talk to. So just send them an email, inquire from them. They might be in the better position to have more information.
Yeah, and the question too wasn't very well framed. I think I don't know if you want to bring the person as a person with disability or as your dependent. I think as a dependent, as a person living with disability for a master's program. So I think you should also be more specific on what you're asking. If it's a PhD student, the rules are different for PhDs and masters. So bring in a dependent as a person with disability. I don't know what the rules are. Bring in somebody with disability as your dependent. So these are two different things. So you need to specify which one you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah, I think I get where you're coming from. So, yeah, so just something to take back. The next question: is it detrimental to apply to be nominated by multiple NGOs? The short answer to this is no. You can be nominated by multiple nominating agencies. The CSC would just eventually choose one for you. You know, you can be nominated by your government and nominated by FAWE, or nominated by your university where you work. If all those nominations get to CSC, CSC will just, all CSC needs is, this is a good candidate. That's what the nomination is for. So if different people have vouched for you that you're a good candidate, I think CSC just takes that, you know, and then you get awarded only one scholarship at the end of the day. Multiple nominations will not disqualify you, as far as I'm aware, from the information on the CSC website. Next question. I got admission to my PhD program right now and already on a research. How do I go about that, please?
I think there's a follow-up question that they said, if I can go for the Commonwealth application since I am a PhD student already.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
To be honest, this question is not quite clear to me.
I think what they are asking is, so the person has started their PhD, okay, and they want to apply for Commonwealth PhD as well. So two things here: is your PhD in the UK or in Nigeria? If it's in the UK, the rules will be different. If it's in Nigeria, then you would be applying for another PhD in the UK. So if you are in Nigeria doing a PhD, nothing stops you from applying for Commonwealth PhD in the UK. So if you're already a PhD student in Nigeria, of course, you can start another application in the UK. If you get an offer, then do well to apply for Commonwealth funding, and if they give you, that will be fine. But if you are in the UK doing a PhD already in the UK, then the rules are different. I think Commonwealth specifies the eligibilities for the PhD, so you need to check what the rules are.
Just to add to that, just to be sure, I will just give different options in addition to what he said. I know people that have started a PhD in Nigeria and came to Commonwealth, came to UK to start another PhD, so that's possible. But
Mhm.
notice if you are doing a PhD already in the UK, Commonwealth will not sponsor that existing PhD. Do you understand? You have to be a new application. However, there are other scholarships that can sponsor existing PhD, like Schlumberger Future Females Award. A lot of them do your research very well. So I just want to say that because I want to leave soon, there are a lot of questions on LinkedIn. I need to read them out because they are not popping up. I mentioned they should type on the chat, but they're not typing. So I have to just read it for you. Then you can continue for the ones here. Is that okay?
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
All
Go
right,
ahead.
let me read it. Okay, good. So we have Abubakar. He said, since an admission is a requirement, how then do we get admission from without funding or proof of fund? Can I just read all of them? Is if that's okay?
How many are they?
So a short answer to that would be that, of course, you don't need to pay for applications. Most universities don't accept application fees. So you need to check universities and what the rules say. Some of them just throw in your application, submit, they will give you admission if you qualify. Some will need you to pay application fees. So you need to know where you're applying and what the rules says. You can find all of these things on the website of the university you want to apply to.
Okay, thank you. Should I go on to the next question?
Yes, please.
Okay, from Balo, he said or she said, is it mandatory to have an admission letter before applying for Commonwealth Master Scholarship? Thank you.
Short answer to that is no. You don't have to have an admission letter to apply. Like we've said, you can have and you can state that you have, but someone that doesn't have will also apply and get it. Where you need is if you get nominated, they would ask you to now upload proof of admission for them to confirm your nomination. That is the point at which you need an admission letter. So at this stage, you might not need an admission letter in full.
And most of the times as well, the FSB will require you to come with disadmission letters. So in order to also, if you don't have an admission already, you can, like I said before, start an application, have an applicant ID, say you have started the application. So this thing doesn't take time. You can do them concurrently. So you don't have to say, oh, I'm applying for scholarship. That's why I didn't apply for this. You can do these things under 24 hours.
Yeah, thank you. And also, the university usually get back to you in good time as well, especially when you apply earlier in the application window. So yeah, like I said, I think that's a very important because let's not get it mixed up. I think maybe I need to reemphasize this point. CSC has their criteria.
Mhm.
Nominating agency have their own criteria. Some nominating agencies will require admission letter, some may not. The Commonwealth Scholarship Commission itself does not require you to have admission letter at the point of application. So you and also note that the window for the Commonwealth application is different from the window for nominating agencies to choose. Some nominating agencies will conduct interviews, have a shortlisting process. Some may not do anything at all. They just need you to, because once you submit your application to CSC, CSC will forward your details to your nominating agency. Then if your nominating agency wishes to conduct any kind of shortlisting exercise, they are free to do that. If they do not wish to do that, they can just look at your application and choose you based off of what you've submitted to CSC's website. So those are things that you need to know. So also understand the different nuances of your nominating agencies. Go to the CSC website, look at the list of nominating agencies, look at the brief description provided there, know the ones that you actually qualify for, and carry out further research on those ones so that you know the ones that you want to submit applications through. You can choose one, you can choose more than one, but just understand the different requirements. Like Emeka said, FSB in Nigeria usually asks you to come with an admission letter, even though the Commonwealth will give you the leverage of submitting without. But FSB usually asks, and they usually recommend more people that have admission letters over those that do not. So you also need to look at these things and also prepare yourself to be successful on both sides. So the next question is asking whether can admission in the USA or Canadian university be run with Commonwealth scholarship? Because Emeka shaking his head already. So I will just give the short answer, which is no. The Commonwealth scholarship is only for study in the UK. Commonwealth Master Scholarship only for masters, a full-time master's degree in the UK. usually from the September start date. For the PhD, also the same. PhD in the UK with a UK university. There's also the split site one, and there's distance learning. Those ones are different. Those are the ones that allow you to stay in your home country and study. The split site, you do some part of the study in the UK, do some part of the study in your home country in partnership with a university in your home country. But those are different scholarships. For the master's and PhD, which is full-time study in the UK, it's only for UK universities and UK courses. Next question. Please, how many universities can a person choose during the application of Commonwealth Masters? Interesting question. Mecca, do you want to talk about that?
Said, how many universities can a person choose during the application for Commonwealth Masters? I think the portal allows you to upload 3 applications, 3 different universities, and I think it's same for. I think yes, for Commonwealth Masters, 3 universities, but you need to check as well. Once the advert is out and once the application is open, you need to check what the rules are, if they have changed or not. So you need to have 3 applications. But for Commonwealth shared scholarships, there is actually no limit to the number of applications and number of universities you can apply to. In fact, I have a mentee who applied to about 25 schools, and that's 25 different courses. And because she was able to tailor her personal statements and statements of purposes to these different courses, so she was able to make 25 different applications, super energy, and eventually she got one of it. So just cast your net wide as you can with Commonwealth shared. But with Commonwealth Masters, I think the limitation is 3 universities, but you need to confirm when the application is advertised.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Next question is asking, do you have any universities in the Commonwealth that you can recommend that a student can apply to? And my short answer to that is no. I do not have any universities to recommend. First of all, because I don't do marketing for universities, but second of all, because that is a limiting, I'll call it a limiting mindset. There is no special university that has more chances of getting the scholarship over the other one, in my opinion, and based on the empirical evidence that I have. The Commonwealth has said that all universities are open, all courses are open as well. The only thing that I recommend is go through the 6 themes that the CAC has specified. There are 6 themes. So your course of study has to fall under one of these themes. They will ask you to choose the theme that what you want to study falls under when you're applying. So whatever course you're studying in whatever university has to fall under that theme. Second thing to specify, okay, I think this is the best opportunity to say this would be, while choosing universities and courses, please go through the university website and the course content so that you are sure that the course you are applying to is offering the material that you are interested in. There are 2 courses, 2 universities are offering MSc, International Development. Does not mean that the course content is the same for both of them. They do not teach the same thing. So you need to specify which one you want to apply for based on the needs and based on the narrative that your story is going through. Because if you pick a university where the content that you're after is weak because of the course title, there's also the likelihood that you won't get the scholarship because the content to help you in the development is not in line with the university and the course that you've chosen. And that makes your application a weak application. So those are some of the nuances and tips that I can also offer in this case. But there's no per se university that has more chances than the others for Commonwealth Masters and Commonwealth Shared. And Commonwealth PhD, sorry. In Commonwealth Shared, universities specify the courses that they want to sponsor. And so you have to apply to those specific courses in those specific universities in order to scale through the application process. Next question on the screen. Hi, some of us from Zimbabwe don't qualify for Commonwealth. Do we have any hope for other scholarships? The answer to this should be yes. Okay, I'll talk briefly so Emeka can contribute to that. eligibility criteria exists for a reason, and different bodies specify different eligibility criteria. If you do not meet the eligibility criteria of one scholarship or one opportunity, that does not discount you from other opportunities. Some people do not meet the eligibility of Chevening, but they meet the eligibility of Commonwealth, and then they get awarded a Commonwealth scholarship. So people do not meet the eligibility of the Commonwealth, but they can meet the eligibility of other internal scholarships that the university offers, or other scholarships that are sponsored by non-governmental organizations, or other scholarships that exist at different levels. So those are different things that we need to take into consideration.
So I think when the advert is also placed, you need to go and check. Okay. And I do not know where you got your source from that Zimbabwe is not eligible for the Commonwealth scholarships. So I cannot speak authoritatively to that until an application is called for. So in the coming weeks, once the application opens, except you're saying there's been a history that Zimbabweans do not apply, do they not apply because they think they are not qualified, or because people do not know about it, or because Commonwealth Commission excludes them from the funding? You need to find out exactly what the situation is. If it is because people don't know about it, then why can't you apply? I think it's only a problem if Commonwealth does not recognize them or does not include them among funded Commonwealth countries. I cannot speak authoritatively to that. So you need to find out precisely the countries. But as far as I know, there are certain Commonwealth countries that do not qualify, but I do not think Zimbabwe is one of them. So you need to find out and check the eligible countries. They'll always advertise it when they do. And if your country is not included, if you go to where you have to select a nominating agency, you wouldn't find anything from your country. So wait until this application round is open, see what the rules say. And of course, there are 1,001 other applications you can make. It's not just Commonwealth. Commonwealth is just one out of the hundreds or thousands of scholarships out there. There is MasterCard, there is ENI. There's a lot of scholarships that you can apply for to fund your studies. So, but again, check what the rules are when those scholarships are applied, so that you know whether your country is included or excluded.
Okay, so just extra information I want to give. I know, at least I know two people from Zimbabwe that are studying in the UK on scholarships. One of them is a Chevening scholar, and I think the other one is a Commonwealth scholar. So I would know that as of last year, people from Zimbabwe won the scholarship. So I can say that based on what my own experience. I've met Zimbabweans that won the scholarship. The other aspect I want to come from is the fact that I know someone from Zambia. So let me just interject this. Someone from Zambia won the scholarship this year, and someone else from Zambia couldn't qualify for admission to the university because the eligibility criteria of the university had changed, that they do not recognize the course that the person studied as a equivalent BSc in the UK. So those are also tiny, tiny issues that come up. But that does not discount you from applying to scholarships far and wide. Like I said, always look out for the eligibility criteria. And like Emeka has pointed out, you need to be informed. They list a number of countries that apply for things. Some countries are eligible for masters, but they are not eligible for PhD. I think I've seen something like that in the so it depends on where the Commonwealth and the FCDO classifies your country. If your country is classified as a developing country or global south or whatever category they want to put it under, now those that are eligible for funding, because Canada is also a Commonwealth country, but is not eligible for most of these scholarships because of where it is classed as a developed country. So you need to check whether you are eligible because you are from Zimbabwe, or whether it is because of the course you studied or the university you went to in Zimbabwe, and then begin to work around what can be done around that to make you eligible for other opportunities, or what opportunities are eligible to your particular circumstance. Good. So other questions coming in. Let's see. We try to round up as quickly as possible. I think we've spent a lot
I
of
think
time.
there's a
So
question here. The person says, what to do after applying to the application? And if I respond to that, I think this is really a very interesting question. What do you do after you have applied? Because a lot of people will just apply and then they will just go and sleep and wait for FSB to get back to them, and FSB never gets back to them. Whether it's Commonwealth Shared or Commonwealth Masters or Commonwealth PhD, whatever one you apply for. So I think the next thing you should do after you have submitted your application is to pick up the application, critique the application that you made, and start applying to other funded bodies. That's what I would say, instead of just sitting back and waiting, because it might go south. Okay. So pick up your application, look out for other opportunities that you think you want to harness, and start applying to them immediately, because those most universities in the UK, for instance, have the same start period, September. Okay, in some cases you could do November or January start. But so once you've submitted an application for scholarship, jump on the next scholarship application if it is really something you are passionate about. So that's what I would say.
okay, yeah. So I think that's very important because I think people look at it this way. Let me paint this picture. You are applying for this scholarship in September, October, maybe it closes in November, and you're not going to take up the study till next year, September. You're probably not going to know the outcome till March, April. So that's about 4 months of 4 to 5 months of waiting. And if 4 to 5 months of waiting yields a negative result, that is 4 to 5 months of your time that has been spent waiting on something that did not materialize. So the best option, in my opinion, is to take up that whatever you've written 11 essays for the Commonwealth Scholarship. You've basically told your whole story. You've articulated all your ideas and your points together. And that material is enough to apply to different scholarships. You just need to fine tune it to fit into the different scholarship opportunities that exist out there. They stagger the Commonwealth application. So the Commonwealth Masters and PhD finishes, and then the Commonwealth Shared opens towards the end of that. So you can also move into that. If you're applying for a Masters, the Commonwealth Shared becomes a new application opportunity again. There's nothing wrong. I know people that have won the Commonwealth Masters, the Commonwealth Shared, the Chieftain Scholarship, the Mastercard Scholarship, all in one application year. So apply for all of them. When you get all of them, you can begin to choose which ones you want to go for, which ones you want to take up, reject which ones. So scholarship bodies reject candidates. Candidates also reject scholarships. So you can be that candidate that also has a lot of scholarships and rejects them as well. So apply to as many as you can, have options if you can. They say you only need 1 yes. You can get more than 1 yes. If you apply to as many as possible, then your likelihood of getting something is increased. You miss all the chances that you don't take. So if you ignore all other scholarships because you applied for Commonwealth, you're essentially shooting yourself in the leg because Commonwealth might not choose you. But it's better if you're in the situation where you have a better opportunity than Commonwealth and you decide not to choose them. So I would say that I'll take that as that's the kind of advice I give people. Apply to everything. There's funding across Europe, there's funding in Asia, there's funding in the Americas, there's other funding in the UK. Your university has local scholarships. I know someone that took up a university sponsored scholarship to take up his course. I mean, it wasn't as fully funded as the Commonwealth, but it was still something because the Commonwealth didn't upgrade him from being a reserve candidate, but it was enough for him to take up the study. So yours, okay. I think I also add this tip while going through your university website and the courses. Look through possible funding. Sometimes they list it there. They list possible funding for your courses or possible funding for your profile when you create an admission profile on the university. Some of them have an algorithm that will show you possible funding opportunities. Commonwealth to be listed maybe on that list. So you just know that these are the other scholarships that are also eligible to this course you have applied to. If that is not there, you can send an email to either the department or to the admissions office and ask them what funding opportunities are available to this course. After you've submitted an admission application, what funding opportunities are available to this course? Based on your profile, your country of origin. They know, they have all those details in their system. They can now recommend to you that candidates with this kind of profile usually are eligible for this scholarship or that scholarship. The university wants you to come and study with them. So if there's anything they can do to help you get funding to come and study with them, they would usually grant you that assistance. So make use of that resource, make use of the internet that you have. Reach out to them, email them. I remember when I did one application and I wasn't getting funding and I wanted to defer an offer, and I told them that the reason I want to defer this offer is because of funding. Then I included at the base of my email, if you have any other alternative sources of funding, please do let me know. And then they had to copy my email and send it to the director in charge of scholarships at the department, who now sent me a list of links of different scholarships to apply for. And I started to apply for them one after the other before I eventually got upgraded for the Commonwealth scholarship that I got. And even within my department that I went to take up the Commonwealth Share Scholarship, I had also applied for their internal scholarship. So by the time I resumed, when I was meeting with one of the lecturers, he said he remembers my name from the application process because he had seen my name apply for this scholarship and the other scholarship and the other one that was in the department as well. So they take note of all these things. So those are some of the resources that are available to you. University websites in the UK are very rich with a lot of information. Most of the information that you need is on that website. You just need to take your time and read. I would encourage everyone, take your time and read. Please take your time and read. There's a lot of information that has been created on the websites. Take your time and read through it. Anything you don't understand, send emails. Send emails to the admissions team. Send emails to the department. Send emails to the support team. They will get back to you. They will answer your questions. They will provide you with resources. They will provide you with information. I see Ejiro came on screen, so it means you have something
Yeah,
to say.
I came on screen because I just saw the message that our speaker sent to me. Can I read it?
Go ahead.
No, I'm asking him, not you. Can I read it?
Oh,
Me?
okay.
He just won an award. I'm just saying the message now.
I sent you a message.
Wasn't that you? You won an award, right? No?
Oh.
Should we
I,
share or
I
should not share? Should we share or should not share?
No, you can share. You can share.
He just won an award like today. That's why it's coming in this dress fabulous. As in, he won the award of World Scholar Travel Award in USA. Are you in the US?
I'm back now.
Oh my God. Like, but he just won it. It's on Twitter. It's amazing. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
We bring to you amazing speakers that have evidence. As in the guy who, honestly, I'm
Thank
so happy.
you. Thank
I just
you. Thank
discovered
you
it
very
just
much.
now. And so please, our participants, our scholars are not just scholars, they're also award-winning scholars. They win all our awards. Amazing. Okay, finish. I'm sorry.
Thank
Continue.
you.
Oh,
So
thank
the
you.
other thing
Thank
I
you.
was just going to add is, of course, the journey to getting a scholarship is usually not easy. So bear in mind, like I said in my opening statement, that you can be rejected is a 50-50 thing. And if you do get accepted, well done, more work. Because if you've gotten a scholarship, you have to sustain the scholarship. If you've not gotten one and you're really passionate about getting one, then you need to fight harder. You need to build capacity. You need to follow the right people. You need to use social media. It's very, very important. I know why I'm stressing social media now. You need to use social media. You need to build a profile for yourself. Okay. You need to know that things can go south, things can go well. And when it goes well, good. When it doesn't go so well, good again, because it's a learning curve. So you learn how to do it better and you improve upon what you have previously done. So that's one. Then secondly, I also ask young people, I say, what do you do with your time? What do you do with your time? And what do you do with your time and your data? Is it just Instagram, Facebook, and you just go there, waste the data, watch reels, watch TikTok and all that? Use it, research. Okay. If you do a filter of scholarships that are open this 2024, 2025, you will find a whole lot. In fact, you last year I applied for a research grant for my PhD from the Royal Historical Society, and I didn't get. Okay, I had to register, pay membership fee. I didn't get it. I was discouraged, but because I knew, oh, I wanted to add this to my profile that I've won the Royal Historical Society. That's like the largest body for historians here in the UK. So this year I applied again, and my supervisor unfortunately applied too. He didn't get. So we were doing the application the same time. But this year when I applied, I got the grant. It just came in. I think it was 2 weeks ago. It came in, some good amount of pounds. And what that meant was my supervisor called me and said, "Oh, I'll make sure you go." I said, "Yeah." So he said, "I'm going back to my own application this year." You see? So he had to go back because I got it. So he wants to also get it. So it's a good thing that you spend reasonable amount of time researching these scholarships, researching this funding, applying to them, getting rejected, and eventually getting accepted. My first Commonwealth scholarship, I did 7 schools. 7 schools. After I tried FSB and all of that, and they failed. Okay. I tried shared, Commonwealth shared. I applied to 7 schools. 6 failed. 1 placed me on reserve. Okay, and that was University of Leeds. University of University of Keele. They placed me on reserve, and then I started praying that someone will not take up their offer and I can be upgraded. But eventually, the person didn't reject or decline, so I didn't get it. Then the next year, I applied, and that year I was more determined. So I did only 3 schools because I'm trying to buttress the point you made that you can be that person who rejects scholarships. So I applied to just 3 schools, and the 3 universities made me their offer. That is Queen Mary University, University of Durham, and University of Kent. So I started to filter them, and I saw that the University of Durham, they were asking me to provide English language IELTS. And I already, just like Tobert said, I said I wasn't going to write it. And then I approached University of Kent, and I saw a guy, I liked his work, Professor Neophytes Lucides. So I'm like, okay, good, this guy is here, so this is where I'm going to. So what did I do to the other 2 universities? I simply wrote to them the way they will write you, that unfortunately we had blah, blah, blah. And that was how I said I was going to do it. And eventually I wrote them, I said, "Thank you for making me an offer. Unfortunately, I'm not accepting your offer this time because I got a better offer somewhere." So I declined the 2 offers. And I could have just kept silent, but because I wanted to satisfy myself for the number of rejections I had received, I said I was going to write them officially to reject them too, because they will always get back to you with rejections. So I said I was going to officially reject them. So it's on record that
I want to confirm this. I humbly reject your offer. If you see,
I had to write them, and then I took up University of Kent, and I have never regretted making that decision. So yeah, you can't be that person who rejects an offer from multiple awardees. So awarded at the university. So just take your time, plan your application, get people to review. It can be your peers. It doesn't have to be someone high up there. Okay, any of your friends who you know is good. Look at your wordings, cross your I, dot your T's, check your language. If you have to use Grammarly to do it, use Grammarly. But most importantly, do not depend on AIs. I used to tell my mentees, instead of asking AIs to write for you, ask AIs to critique you. That's one way to learn. Okay, so you can write your essay, and if you think it's so beautiful, ask AI to critique it for you. It will give you some ideas as to things you have not done well, and you can leverage on those things to improve on your essay instead of asking AI to write the essay entirely for you. Okay, so if you must use AI, use it in a more constructive manner instead of depending on it to do what you have to use your head to do. So I believe our time is also up. I don't know how much time we have, but I will just yield my mic and wait for the organizer to wrap up the section.
Yeah, so we should be rounding up now, but one question just came in. So
Okay.
I think we should be off in the next 5 minutes. I got 2 conditional offers from UK universities, one from University of Hull and University of Sussex. I sent a mail to the 2 universities about my deferment because I'd like to apply for Chevening scholarship. Do I have to meet the conditions from the universities before applying for Chevening or Commonwealth scholarship? Good. So this is a broad question. It has a lot of parts. So let me try to dissect a little bit. You've gotten conditional offers from two universities. You've asked them to defer, and they've given you conditions. So first of all, are the conditions the original conditions of the offer, which is maybe different things that they've asked you to do? Or does the condition come after you applied for deferment? Those are two different things. So if they've given you a condition to defer, then you have to meet up that condition in order to defer. If they give you a condition to give you a full admission, which you can now use later on, you also have to meet those conditions, except if the condition is financial. If they ask you to pay a deposit to confirm your admission, then usually the Commonwealth and the chieftain, I know, accept those type of offers as unconditional because they will be the one taking care of the finances. So if it's a financial obligation, you can take that conditional offer and push it to chieftain or Commonwealth, and they will be accepted. If it is not a financial offer, a financial condition, so English language proficiency, producing your certificate or your transcript or things like that, please meet the conditions of the university so that they can make your offer an unconditional offer. Because only an unconditional offer will be accepted by chieftain and Commonwealth, except if the condition is purely financial. Chieftain and Commonwealth do not accept anything with English language proficiency or anything about your outstanding documents, because those are not conditions that they themselves can fulfill on your behalf. So if that is the case, try to make sure that you fulfill those conditions. Second thing I want to say is, if the condition is financial and the university is saying that they cannot defer the offer unless you meet that financial condition, and you get back to the university and let them know that you are applying for chieftain and Commonwealth scholarship, and they still insist that you meet the financial obligation, I would say you should forget about the offer and apply for admission again in a new cycle. Because if you pay that deposit and you do not get the scholarship, your money is not coming back. If you pay the deposit and you still get the scholarship, chieftain and Commonwealth cannot assure you that they will refund that money, because that is also part of the terms and conditions. They always tell candidates, do not pay any money to any university, because they cannot guarantee the refund process will become rigorous for you and for them. So in that case, if you got admission once, there's a very high likelihood you get admission again, especially if you have the same profile, or if you've increased or you have a better profile to assess. You can make another application for admission and hopefully you get it again. But I would always say, if you're not hoping to take up that admission on your own, in the situation that you don't get the funding that you are applying for, then there is no need of committing your funds to it. So let me just put that there so that people can consider that as well. Mecca, I don't know if you have anything to contribute to this question before we wrap up.
Okay, yeah, I think Commonwealth and Chubney, they will always specify that you should expect to have an offer and that the only outstanding condition should be fee payment. Okay, so that is always very, very well stated. So if you go ahead and pay money to a university for to satisfy a condition on your, I don't think you are satisfying what Commonwealth and Chapman are saying. So read the instructions carefully. Do not go paying if you, except you know that if Commonwealth doesn't come, you can take up the funding. Okay, then go ahead and pay. But I would wait, if I were you, to get the decision. And the universities will also always give you time to pay and receive your cash, for that course. And in most cases, it's not your business. Once you have been awarded funding, sometimes the universities will still have to remind you that you have not paid, but that's no longer your business, because eventually they will get communicated and they will take that condition off you. Or I think I had that case as well, yeah, where I had an offer, but the university, they were still sending me email to pay my initial deposit. I had to send my award letter, copy CSC. I think it was one Malona lady then. I had to send the university my offer letter, copied Simon in the email, and then she responded to them. And after a while, they just cleared that condition for me. So always know how you communicate at every point of the admission, and you wouldn't have any problems at all. So read what the instruction says and follow it strictly. If you have money to fund yourself, fine, go ahead and fund yourself.
Good, thank you. So with that, we come to the end of today's session. I think it's been a very lengthy discussion. Tybert had to drop off at some point, but I think we've been able to take most of the questions that we had. I think I saw Ekpenyong was repeating a question because he logged off when his question was answered. So the recording will always be available on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So you can always go back and watch. I think because we answered your question about the third class and 2-1. So you can always go back and get the answer to that. Like I said, we will have another session to talk more about the intricacies of the different essays. By that time, we would expect that the application will be underway and people have begun to draft their essays and began to understand the nuances of what the essay questions are. The reason why we do this is because if we begin to talk about the essays now, it might begin to confuse you on the kind of story that you want to tell, and you might begin to think that you have to tell your story a particular way. So the best way to start the essays is usually to write everything that comes to mind. It's a rough draft. Just write every single thing that comes to mind that you think is relevant to the application, and begin to shortlist things out of that list and cut down on the to meet the word requirement and choose the strongest points and put your point across. So at this stage, like I said, just go and think about your problem, think about your story, begin to articulate your ideas, think about the course you want to study, the university, how it all plays together, how you can make your story as credible as possible. If you are communicating it to a 5-year-old, if you are communicating it to a professor, if you are communicating it to your parents, try to make that story as comprehensive as possible to as wide an audience as possible. We're not talking about you don't need to start putting citations in because you're looking for academics or something. That's not what it's about. It's about making a story that is convincing, because as much as you need to win the scholarship, the CSE also needs to justify how they chose you to get that funding, and they need to justify it to all their stakeholders. So if at any point there's an audit that says bring out the essays of the people that won this scholarship, they have to present something that is worthy of the amount of funding that you've been given. So think about it in that direction. Write something that a child can understand if you explain it to them, an adult can understand, someone in your field understands it, someone outside your field also understands it. So those are just the points. So those are the parting words that I will leave today. I want to thank our speakers. I want to thank Emeka for being here, and congratulations once again on your award. Thank you for that powerful story of how you formally rejected the scholarship offer, because I think that also allows the audience to understand that we're not speaking about fairy tales. We're speaking about things that are real. But let me also highlight that in that story, he had applied 2 years prior and not gotten anything. And
not just 2 years. I started my journey 2017, actually.
Okay. So just so people know, you build capacity as you make these applications. It's not something Rome wasn't built in a day. That doesn't mean people don't get it on the first attempt. But people that get it on the first attempt, like you alluded to, are people that have built capacity through other means. Someone may have been applying for Commonwealth for 4 years but didn't get it. But the first day he goes into MasterCard, he's going to get MasterCard because the 4 years of experience from the other one is now showing up in the other place. So things like that exist. These are transferable skills. So I would just say, put in your best.
Sorry, a good story to me might not make a good story to Buchi and Ejiro, right? So it's also about who you are writing to and the objectives of the funder, right? So if you're applying to Commonwealth, the story you tell to Commonwealth, if there is, for instance, a scholarship for women who have been sexually abused, for instance, and you send me just a regular story, it might not appeal to me if I'm assessing it for Commonwealth, perhaps. But if you send it to those other funding bodies, they might be quick to jump on your story, right? Because this is their core objectives to really help people in this area. So you need to take that into consideration when you're thinking about this whole journey. Who are you applying to? What's the funding of? What's their objective? Okay, what are they looking out for? What kind of stories do they fund? What kind of things do they want to hear from applicants? That is also very important. And that's the reason, even within Commonwealth too, there are, I will not deny, I won't say there are still biases, okay? Individual assessment biases. After we have all submitted first class, submitted transcripts, submitted NYSC, submitted very beautiful proposals, what then do these guys also look out for? That should be the next question on your mind, just so you know that you are not a bad candidate, okay, if you didn't get the offer. Because you have a first class, just to say, anyway, by the way, I had a first class, I didn't get it the first time. I had a first class, I didn't get it the second time. I had a first class, I didn't get it the third time. Does that mean, or did that mean I wasn't a good candidate for it? No, it means there were other factors, right, unknown to me, that the assessors may have also considered in taking that decision. So always know that you are writing to somebody who might not be in your field. Okay, so that person might have certain kind of understanding about what you are writing. And that's why when it goes to a more professional or streamlined body, they will pick you because you have spoken their language. But this other person, it's like you coming to say energy transition. Okay, when you say energy transition, now there's an established meaning for that. Okay, so when you say energy transition and you're writing to somebody who is in core energy systems or engineering, the person already knows what energy transition is. But if you're writing energy transition and you're writing to perhaps somebody who is in mining, that would mean an entirely different thing. If you write it to somebody who is in history, that would mean an entirely different thing. But already, if the application now goes to, if you're from the arts and you're using energy transition, not and your application gets sent to somebody in engineering, if they read it and you are not using that in the context within which they know or in which they understand energy transitions, of course you have started failing in their own perspective. But the other person in your field will understand what you are talking about. So all of these are dynamics, and that is why you have to really understand what you need, how you need to do it, and how best you can present yourself. I believe this will be my final thoughts on this, and I wish you guys all the best. Probably see you guys in another section, and have a
Yeah.
lovely evening.
Yeah, thank you, Emeka. So I would be closing off the session now. Thank you to the wonderful audience for your wonderful questions. It's been a wonderful discussion. I've enjoyed the discussion myself. I hope you have enjoyed it as well. So our speakers are available for you to reach out to them on LinkedIn. Like I said, just search for their names, or just look for we've posted links to their LinkedIn profiles on the chat. So just try to get in touch, ask questions where you can. Make your questions as comprehensive as possible. Don't go into someone's inbox and type, "Hi, I saw you on the webinar. I'd like to ask you a question. Can you tell me more about the Commonwealth Scholarship?" I personally would not respond to that kind of question, because I don't understand what you mean by "Can you tell me more about the Commonwealth Scholarship?" when we've spent about 2 hours here discussing about the scholarship. So I will take you as someone who didn't watch this recording or who didn't digest the recording, and that already creates the bias that you're not really a serious candidate. So please watch this recording. If you will need to watch it again, you've attended if you need to watch the recording again, watch it again and again and again, and take the points home, make notes, work on that. And when things are not very clear, or when you have a very specific question to ask, you can reach out to the speakers. They will try as much as possible to give you their time and give you a comprehensive answer to your question. And if that is not fully answered, you can come back to our next session and drop your question in the comment section. So thank you, everyone. It's been a wonderful discussion from our audience across different platforms: Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. It's been a wonderful time with you guys. We will communicate to you when the next session will be. We don't have a date yet as of today, but through the same channel you heard about today's discussion, you hear about that one as well. So I will say good night, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, depending on what time it is where you are concluding this discussion from. And have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you so much for your audience.